Hi. So welcome to another episode of The Breakpoint, where we dive into tools to make you more productive developer making web apps. And we have a full crew today. So I'd also like to introduce Sindre Sorhus, who is a contributor on Yeoman, very active in the JavaScript community. But we're going to dive into a lot of things today. This is the Sourcemap Spectacular episode. So we're going to talk about source maps for SaaS, SourceURL, project configuration stuff, JS Run, Yeoman, keyboard shortcuts, and developer workflow inside of the Chrome developer tools.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's get started. Let's do it.
All right. First thing, we're going to start off, we're going to do some Sourcemap stuff. So let's switch over to my screen. Now, Sourcemaps, just kind of to review, provide a language-agnostic way of mapping source to destination of code, basically. Right. Now, there's this fantastic article about it, very exhaustive, on HTML5 Rocks that Ryan Seddon wrote. And it talks a lot about what you can do, but just to show an example of how this works. So I have a small little web app, and as you can see, we're just changing colors. It's pretty great. Let me view source on this. So here, down where we have the scripts, while we originally used jQuery, we had this setup script, and then this JS. We, minified and concatenated like we should. So that's all there. But you notice down at the very bottom of this is source mapping URL, and this points to a JSON file. Now, that JSON file was generated, in this case, by a Clojure compiler. But what it allows me to do is, when I open up my DevTools, hide away my secrets, and go over to my sources, while the page itself is loading in the compiled and single minified file, since I have source maps enabled right here, what I'm actually seeing in sources are my original scripts. And the other benefit here, in addition to just seeing these things, is that things like breakpoint still work. So when I set a breakpoint inside this file, I can click. And so the browser is actually interpreting the minified file. And you can see that because over here in my scope variables, I'm looking at a variable called p, but that's actually the text variable here. So browser's doing the minified, I'm getting the original ones, so I can do breakpoints and do breakpoint debugging.
So there's kind of no point in waiting until the end of your project to get all your JavaScript smushed down to this kind of concatenated minified form. You may as well do it earlier on and then kind of roll with source maps. I mean, what do we reckon there?
That's a good question. So I think during development, you're still probably going to want to develop with the original sources. Right. Like, there's downsides, right? I cannot actually just see what's in the text variable here.
Okay.
Maybe this will come later, but for now, that's this. I think this is a big boon for debugging a production environment.
Yeah.
But there's other things in addition to just the fact of going from minified source back to the original sources. So let's dive into that now. When source maps came out, everyone was really excited about, what about Coffeescript, right? That's what they're asking.
Yeah.
So Coffeescript Redux is an alternative Coffeescript compiler that Matthew Ficarra has been working on for a long time now. And it's very active. And this new Coffeescript Redux compiler can create source maps. There's another project, too, that has just reached a new exciting state, which is Uglify JS 2. New version. It is now finished and stable, and it also generates source maps. And not only that, but it can consume source maps, too. So if you see here, it'll consume a source map, and then you can generate a new one.
I was really confused. You mentioned this earlier, and I was like, there's the source map, and you're going to...
Source mapception.
But why would Uglify? Uglify should create a source map.
Yeah.
So why does it take a source map?
Because you want to take something like Coffeescript. You can also take TypeScript, which creates a source map.
Okay.
Consume its source map, and then go down to minified code, because that's what we want out of Uglify, right?
Okay.
But we want to take our minified app, and then when we're debugging it, go back to the original sources, which is, in this case, is not even JavaScript.
Okay, so we use the first one. So we take the one that Uglify gives us to get back to the Coffeescript compiled JavaScript, and then we take the Coffeescript source map to go back up to the Coffeescript?
Pretty close, yeah.
Oh.
We actually the browser only ends up dealing with one single
okay,
map.
so the map
is mapped. So this is all explained in a great post, again by Ryan Seddon, called Multi-Level Source Maps, where he talks about how this works and shows a nice demo. And I'm going to quickly show my own demo. So let's see. I'm here in this little thing. I'm just going to log out this small little piece of Coffeescript. We got some, we're just iterating over an array. We're mapping. And then we have this long form text string. And we drop the results of both of these things, this math stuff and the Shakespeare, into our DOM. Okay?
Okay.
Now, I compiled this with the Coffeescript Redux compiler, and it turned into this, right? So generated by Coffeescript. Here's my JavaScript, and that's all looking good. And you'll notice down at the bottom, this is how we refer to that Sourcemap URL. Then I went to Uglify, and I said, hey, man, hook it up.
Just like smush this down.
Yeah. It looks something like this right here. So we consume that map, we generate a new one, and we output to this new min.js. So let me bring up what this looks like in the browser. So if I just view source, I have a test.min.js, which is min, clearly. But in my sources panel, I have my original Coffeescript with working breakpoints too.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Really slick.
Very nice. So there it is.
So two-step.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A combo. So Sourcemaps has gotten a very active community. A lot of tools create them. This is essentially the living document that tracks all the activity in Sourcemaps now. Over on GitHub, look up Ryan said in GitHub Sourcemaps, you'll find it. The current languages that generate source maps, such as GBWT, the project, the Tracer project. This Mozilla Sourcemap JavaScript project creates the actual, does this sourcemap creation, and both of these projects that I just showed use this. And there's a lot of other good stuff worth clicking around, spend some time exploring this. Now, I want to switch over to non-JavaScript source maps. In the last episode, we talked about DevTools and Sass,
Yes,
right?
we did.
And I opened up HTML5, please. We looked at kind of this H1, and look, we're actually referencing the SCSS. I click over here, and so we had line mapping. And the current implementation is just that. It just is line mapping and using these little hints about location to go over there. That's cool. In fact, that's really cool. So cool that Felix Gnaus. It's great. He added pull requests to both less.js and Stylus to add the same line number mapping to those so that you can get the same benefits.
Yeah. So for all those people that have been wondering whether less and all those solutions are going to get this support,
boom.
Ta-da.
So those just went up yesterday, so they're not in the projects yet, but they're pretty awesome. But in the meantime, this is just using this kind of hack to get line number mapping. It's not using real source maps because no tool has had the ability. But this over here on the Sass repo is an active pull request contributed by the Chrome DevTools team to add actual v3 source map generation into the Sass compiler.
Oh.
Yeah. OK. So as far as what this will do, let's say a few things. We know basically in the compiled CSS where everything that's in there came from. So let's say you have a color called red, and it originally came from a variable. You can command click from the elements panel that red, and it'll jump back to its original location where you can make that change.
Awesome.
Let's say the value was evaluated because of some math in a function. You would command click, and it would go directly to that evaluation point. If something's source was a property source was from a mixin, it would go there. So we can go directly from what we're looking at in the CSS back to where it came from, even considering a bunch of transformations and actual logic happening inside the Sass. So that's really cool. So I can't wait to really demo how this really works when it's in. That's something to look forward to. One last quick one. Can I do that?
Yeah, I
Sure,
think
go for it.
Okay.
You're doing great, Rob.
SourceURL. SourceURL is a little funny one. So this is a little tricky to explain. I'm going to bring up some code. Actually, you know what? Here, we'll just bring up my console. Eval, let's see, console.log document window. Does that work?
You got a comment there.
Yeah, I got a comment.
You good?
Cool. Now, typically when you eval, it just evaluates, but there's no way to like retain that and access it later. Now, SourceURL actually gives us this ability. Now, you might be looking at this and being like, why would you ever want to like hold on to an evaluation that you're just doing right here, hi.js. So if you see, this just added hi.js in my sources panel. This is here. This is pretty cool. I can treat this like a real script. I can add breakpoints, and with a much more significant evaluation. So typically this will happen inside a framework. The framework will be doing some transformations. Let's say it's a templating framework that evaluates compiled, or that's creating compiled templates, and it can just add them into here on the fly, generating a file name. The other thing that just got added with SourceURL is the ability to do the same thing, not just for evaluated text, but for inline script tags. So if I take a little bit of code from over here. So this right here, I'm just creating a script element, tossing something into it, and then adding it to the DOM. Now, typically this will just throw it away, but again, I can add my source URL into here. And now it actually lives, hypothetically, demo fail. There's a very important space that's required right here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the way that I'm showing this is a little weird because why would you ever want something from the console to go over here? But this is really important in larger frameworks that manage script evaluation for you or anything like that.
Are we going to see frameworks actually starting to support this?
Ember uses this really well. So they have a way to collect all the modules and evaluate them. So the modules are collected and actually executed as only a single JavaScript file, but you authored them in a lot of different files, and it's actually just running them all through eval, but using SourceURL so that you have a very enjoyable debugging experience. So yeah,
that's really cool.
it's good stuff.
I like it.
Cool. Well done. That was like
Yeah.
Pretty good.
All right, you want to show us some stuff?
Yeah.
So what are you going to talk about?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about some project configuration files you should use in a project. So I have some templates I usually use when I start a new project to make it easier for people to contribute to my code while still keeping my preference on different code style preferences. So the first one is .git attributes. What it does, you should place all this on your root folder and it applies to all your files in your project. So what it does is this one, it just all the text files. Yeah, thanks. All text files, it will normalize your line endings to Unix because some people might be on Windows using Notepad++. And you don't really want to mix line endings.
So this is the difference because Windows has carriage return line feed and
exactly,
Unix is just line feed, right?
Yeah.
So and if you check out a repo and it's different, it'll just start. Git will start to say, "I'm going to change some stuff here," or you just
it's really messy. So
okay,
you
so
don't want that. Yeah.
This makes this go away, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I like that.
You just put it in a repo and magically you don't have to think about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like not thinking about it.
You also have .travis.yml, which, if you don't know what Travis is,
You want to bring that down?
yeah,
on the
I will
screen?
bring it down, of course.
Perfect.
Yeah, so Travis is a continuous integration system, which actually tests your code when you push and on new commits and stuff like that.
There are quite a few open source projects using it
Yeah.
at the moment, aren't there?
Yeah, actually,
There's modernizers using it.
Modernizer, Yeoman, of course.
Yeah.
jQuery. So yeah, it's pretty popular. It's free for open source. Yeah, sure.
Can you switch over to my screen?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just show this real quick. This is Travis in use on Modernizer. Incoming pull requests. Travis pulls them and then evaluates them and basically runs the Modernizer test suite on their servers against the actual pull request. So this runs using Node. It checks out the dependencies and evaluates my QUnit test suite.
Yeah, exactly.
And lets me know that everything's fine, test suite passes, we're good.
And that makes it a lot easier to manage big projects with a lot of pull requests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, the first thing that you do whenever someone sends you through a pull request is check to see if it passes your test. So it just saves you so much time.
exactly, it saves you so much time.
That's great.
And you can be confident it actually works because it passes the test. So, and another file I usually put in is, it's not very well known, but it's very useful. It's called the editor config. What it does, it tries to define some rules that you usually want in your editor. Like, I prefer tab indentation, so I just mention there. And I prefer Unix line. Okay,
We're gonna get so many comments about this.
right.
Tabs
right,
versus
right.
spaces right here.
Yeah.
Fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We brought this up last night, and we actually did have a tabs versus spaces.
You did not.
We did.
Oh,
God.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nobody
'cause-
comes out good from that.
No.
No.
It's like the never-ending battle because we're never going to agree.
It's
on
almost like
There's
people
some good arguments.
Yeah.
It's almost like people are fighting over a preference, though. It's strange.
It's a very personal
Easy.
thing.
Yeah.
It is.
So here you're able to define your preferences.
Yes,
For the entire project.
for the entire project and team or collaborators
Yeah.
on a project. Yeah. So
That's good because it removes headaches, doesn't it? You know, when
Exactly,
everybody's sharing the
exactly,
same thing. At
exactly.
least you know what you're getting
Yeah.
into. I like that.
Yeah.
you also have the most well-known. It's called JSHint, which
Yeah.
is a fork of JSLint, and it defines some code consistency rules, and it generally makes it better. It generally makes your code better by enforcing you to define to adhere to some rules. Like, for example, I pulled up some of they are pretty new, not very well known, but they are really useful for code consistency and making your code actually better. Like, I prefer single quotes because that's the best, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
It's a choice.
yeah, and it right.
I don't mind.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
fine.
Yeah, whatever. And you can define trailing, which actually informs you if you
Do you have
need.
a demo of this? Or
Yes,
example of how
yes,
that works?
exactly. So here we have just pseudocode, JavaScript code, and if you so Sublime highlights for me when I have trailing spaces, but most don't.
So this is Sublime is using your JSHint rules?
Yes,
Yep.
not at the moment because that would be too much stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to explain it anyway.
Sure.
So if I leave this in my code and save, JSHint is going to shout at me, of course,
Yeah.
because that's the rule and I should follow it.
Yeah.
And there are some other useful stuff, like you can define a max length, which will inform you if you don't wrap your lines at, I think I defined 80.
80.
Yeah, 80. And if a lot of JavaScript developers do Node.js development, and the thing about that is the async nature actually makes it really hard not to get into a callback.
Yep.
Callback hell, I think.
Yeah,
is
callback hell is the
an
right
official
definition.
name.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what this does, it actually informs you if you try to nest your code more than the set level. Like, I prefer 2 or 3, because other than that you should just put your function outside the nested callbacks. So yeah, that's really good to actually try to simplify your code, make it easier for others to contribute.
I like the max params one. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
This is this idea that I guess if you get too many parameters, it just becomes this kind of which one am I setting? Especially if you call that function, because it'd be like true,
Yeah.
false,
Yeah.
false, true, and 5.
Exactly.
And it becomes very hard for
Yeah.
somebody to
Yeah.
kind of which one was that again? Which parameter?
Yeah, that's called the Boolean trap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So this is the idea that if you get over 3, in this case, it's going to suggest that maybe you might want to bounce that
And
down
it's-
to an object or something else that
Yeah,
can
an object, for
encapsulate
example,
your...
because then you don't have to care about Yeah.
And this is a pattern people have seen with at least jQuery, if nothing else, like using objects instead of having like insane numbers of parameters.
Yeah, I like it. I like that. That in JS Hint we now have rules to kind of keep you from shooting yourself in the foot as you're developing.
Right.
But then also things like this, which is kind of code to ensure good, healthy code over the lifetime of a project.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
Other developers are not
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
in and making
Yeah.
poor mistakes.
Well, it's really good, yeah, like you say, because that maintenance thing it can be really hard,
Yeah.
especially with a lot of people, and sometimes you just want to ship, and this kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow a little bit, and just
Yeah.
kind of forces you to. Because I don't know, maybe sometimes I've started a project well, and then over time it may have got a little worse, possibly.
Possibly.
This might be useful for me. Anyway.
Exactly. Yes. So you should use all those files in a project. It's easy. Just have them in a folder, copy them over when you init a new project.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So my git attributes, Travis, editor config, JS Hint.
Exactly, and they
Every
all have a
project.
website, so just Google it.
I like it.
Yeah. And you want to introduce?
Yeah, so this is, you're going to show us an extension that you wrote for Sublime. And this actually became because, well, my friend uses, I think MATLAB has this ability. You can like be looking at code, you can be authoring it, and you're just like, I want to evaluate just these 2 lines of like the file. Just send that and evaluate it. And I was like, I really, want to have this in Sublime Text.
Yeah.
And you wanted to be able to run the code in the browser, not just inside Sublime.
Yeah, not in Node either. Like I wanted to test it against the DOM. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you did that.
Yeah, I thought it looked useful. So
Sindre is one of these people that will respond to a comment with a complete solution.
Yeah.
That's,
It's quite astounding.
Yes.
That's good.
Right.
All right, so
Yeah,
you want to
so-
show us?
yes, of course. Here I'm using one of the new features in Canary. Canary?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That lets you style your console log output.
we actually showed this in the last episode.
Last
I
app.
think,
Yeah.
Yep.
One new feature is now you are allowed to style multiple times.
Yeah, different styles within the same
Yeah.
log.
You just use %C before the thing you want to style. So here I defined base style, and I just differentiated it between the different words. I'm just going to mark the code I want, because that's how you do it in JSRun, and run it. And
Nice. Oh
Very
yeah.
slick.
That's
I
pretty
like
cool.
it.
Yeah.
So you could be selecting just a single line.
I could that too. I could just,
Hello.
and it
Nice.
runs.
Yeah.
Nice.
Either the selected line or the selected text. So it's pretty nice to quickly test out some stuff.
Yeah.
And you can do it to existing projects too, and just modify a method and just override the current page.
That's really cool.
So it's really easy. So yeah, I think that could be useful to some.
I like it. I
That's
like
So
it.
is
really
that-
cool.
Where did people get that? Can they get that through?
Yes, it's currently on GitHub, of course.
Just,
Like all.
look up JS run.
Yeah, it's called JSRun. Just
Okay.
Google it.
And taking a look at the moderator queue, I see some people have been asking about where they can get all the code for what we're using. We'll try to stick as much of this up online after the show as possible, so you guys can check it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
All right.
So since we saw some stuff in the console, you're gonna show us some more.
Yeah, I'm going to show you some more stuff. So over the
rainbow action in the console.
as you can see, I absolutely hate this new styled console stuff. It's,
See, it can
I
be
hate
used for
it.
great good or great evil.
Yeah.
In my case, it's yes. This is like visual vomit. All right. So over the past couple of episodes, we've been spending a lot of time in the sources panel, and we've been showing you snippets and how all those things work. And in some ways, this is like working in a text editor within the DevTools. Now, when you're working in a text editor, there are some functions that you're commonly doing. You're always trying to locate files. You're trying to find particular methods or selectors in the files you're working on. Maybe you want to do a text search on a file or locate something across your entire project. Now, how do you do those things inside the DevTools? So I've just navigated to the sources panel. And there are a bunch of different shortcuts that you can use to access the features I'm going to talk about. Now, if you're on OS X, you can just use Command for some of these. If you're on Windows, you can use Control. What do people do if they're on Linux? Is it?
Control.
It's Control.
Yeah.
It's Control on Linux as well. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to locate a file. So Command O will bring up this dialog that has basically a list of all the different files in your project. And if I wanted to go to a particular one, I can filter down quite easily just by typing in. So in this case, I want to go to script.js. Now, let's say, okay, so I'm in a JavaScript file at the moment, and I want to locate a function inside my script. So if I go and I use Command-Shift-O this time, it'll actually give me a list of all the different methods in my file. And I can go and access them. So if I wanted to access, say, this function called update search, I get it right away, which is quite nice. Let's say I wanted to do something else, like doing a text search on this file. So maybe I'm not necessarily looking for a particular method, but for something else. So Command F will give you that. And you get another little dialog in the corner. And let's say I want to type in notification. So as you can see, it highlights the term in my file. And I can continue sort of using Command G. In this case, I can continue just flipping through all the different instances of notification in my file.
And I guess we should point out that this Command F to search, it searches the current pane.
Yeah.
And it will work in any pane.
Yeah. So if we went to resources, for example, and we did Command F, and I typed in something like web, or I don't know, I typed in script, you can see there's actually a little notice that comes up saying how many different results have been found in those files. So in script, it'll say, there's been one thing found, and let's see if web comes up with anything. So I've typed in web, and I'm now going through different items in the resources panel that have the word web in there. This also works in network. So if I refresh the page, and I was looking for something, so I'm inside the panel, Command F, and I type in something like normal, it'll actually go and similarly locate all the items in the network panel that have these things. So I can. And
then sometimes we have this little filter checkbox too.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's nice, right? That's pretty sweet. I'm going to go back to the sources panel very quickly.
Did that normal thing, did the filter thing just give you only the ones?
It displays only the list of items that have been filtered down with the highlighting and everything.
Yeah. It's nice on timeline when you just want to see the garbage collect events.
Which I do, actually.
Yeah.
Most times.
And then you just GC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, that's the best.
So we've gone through text search, we've gone through filtering down methods, locating files. Now what if you wanted to do a text search across everything in your project? Now if you do Command, Option, and then F again, another panel will show up. And let me just bring down the size of this a little bit. So you have the ability to search sources in your project, ignore case, or type in regular expressions to find things based on regular expressions. So in my case, I want to find a file called, I think it's called sing or song or something like that. So I can't find the file here, but I can find files that have the word sing in them. Let's say I want to navigate to that file. So Command O, I think it's song.js. So I've now gone, and it's actually located me a snippet with a file named song.js. So this works across not just regular project files, but all of the snippets that you have saved as well. Now I'm going to show you another quick thing. Let me just close up that. Let's go to our song. So I've selected some code in my song.js snippet. Now if I run Command, Shift, and E,
I think it's Control.
Oh, sorry, it's Control Shift E. You're right. You're right. It's now gone, and it's evaluated the selection that I had in the console.
Which is basically what we had in JS Run, but now we just have it in the browser.
Best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty slick. I mean, there are so many shortcuts in the DevTools that you can use. Another one that we wanted to point out is actually Command plus square brackets. So you can actually use this to tab back and forth between different panels. So let me show you how that works. So I'm in sources at the moment, and I want to go back so I can flip through elements, resources, network sources, and it just works across everything. It's quite nice as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we can to get a listing of all the.
I was just going to ask the very same question, Paul Irish.
Exactly.
Wow.
Do you know the answer?
Yes, it's in DevTools.
Well, there's actually two, so there's a little bit of an overlap. So if you're in DevTools, on any pane but console, and just hit question mark, so bring up, you get a quick listing of all the keyboard shortcuts.
So question mark. There we go.
So and so it's all by panel. There's also a keyboard shortcuts page on the Chrome DevTools documentation site that I think has a few more beyond just these.
Yes, yes it does.
Hidden,
and we're
hidden gems.
Yeah, hidden gems. And we're updating that page at the moment to cover all of these shortcuts. So even if some of these things seem like a bit of a mystery and this is your first time finding out about them, we're going to try demystifying that just a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do we have questions?
We've got some questions. Let's check out the moderator queue and see what questions we've got.
Sergey from. Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's answer Sergey's question.
Okay,
And
sure,
then
sure.
and then we'll talk. We missed our Yeoman bit.
Dude,
No.
we should swing that
I
around.
know,
do
my
that.
Yeoman is really.
It's like, dude, it's like a
Yeah.
major tooling thing.
Yeah.
We should totally talk about it. Oh yeah. Let's answer the question. Then
Yeah,
we'll-
sure.
Okay. All right. Sergey, we're going to answer your question.
Sergey in Tel Aviv asks, do you recommend to build assets and commit them in version control before deployment, or to add a build hook on the production server? Build hook. It's a well, basically, yeah. I guess. So there's a
It
few.
depends.
Yeah.
Like most questions, right?
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah.
I would say so. There's no reason to ever commit Minified.
No.
No.
Like to source control.
No.
However, I could see the case for committing optimized images.
Yes.
If you don't feel like, optimizing images is actually a very expensive operation.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to actually keep those optimized inside source control.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want to do that every time you do a
No,
build,
no,
right?
of course not. I mean, what we sometimes do is if you have like multiple repositories and one repository requires like a minified asset from something else, is just submodule in that asset only and just use it in the secondary project. But yeah.
Yeah, the solution here, I think, is to have a rich build script that you can execute both on your local development machine and on the production environment.
But personally speaking, I would never commit those minified concatenated, particularly scripts,
Yeah, I actually
into source control.
I actually
Yeah,
don't think that minified scripts should be like in GitHub. I don't think they should ever be there. I don't think that even on a project page,
Because you would,
people should
Yes,
distribute.
I remember
because
But sometimes has to do with it because
why?
why?
if
Because
you use Octopus, you have to compile the page before pushing it to GitHub.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some cases for it.
Oh yeah, you don't have that option. For
But in general, though, like if
you
somebody
just install mod page speed in that case. Like I would install mod page speed and then call it a day because that's going to take care of all those optimizations.
Now, if you haven't heard about mod page speed before, there's actually a good GDL episode about it.
watch that.
very good.
You should
so
check
good.
out.
But the general point that you were making was if a developer is going to include, say, your library or something in a bunch of scripts that they've already got a concatenation minification process in place, and you want to drop into that rather than giving them your smushed down version, right? They're going to go through that process anyway. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So we've got a bunch of other questions, but before we do this,
We're going to talk about a project that can actually do things like build scripts
Whoa.
Yeah.
really well.
what's it called?
It's called
Yeoman.
Yeoman. Yeah, I struggle with that as a Norwegian. So, but
Yeah, your laptop got pretty decorated on
Yeah.
on the side.
yeah,
Yeah.
I finally got some nice stickers.
Yeah, it's
so
nice.
Yeah, and you went to town. You really
Yeah.
did. You were like,
He's getting as bad as me.
yeah,
all the
Almost.
stickers. Yeah,
good.
wow.
Yeah.
And a little ship in between the Yeoman. It's great. All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So as we mentioned before, Sindre is on the Yeoman team, and he's been working a lot lately on the next version of Yeoman 1.0. So to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing lately.
So we have struggled a little bit with. We have gotten a lot of requests from user for different stuff like backend integration, more customizable path, and a lot of stuff that we really want to solve, but it's not really easy with the current architecture. We are also tied into the current version of Grunt.
Yeah.
So we try to rethink how we were doing stuff, and we come to the conclusion that the easiest thing is to move a lot of the logic that is currently behind closed walls, far behind into our code base, and put them into the Grunt file itself. What this solves is that everything is transparent to the user, because they can see what happens behind the scenes. They can change it if they want to. They can add in Grunt tasks. Currently there are like 200 plus Grunt tasks that you can make use of.
Is there a place where people can go and check out
Yes,
all
you
the
can go to gruntjs.com, which lists everything. And yeah, that's one of the things we want to solve with the
So
new release.
I know that from the first version of Yeoman, there were a lot of people that sort of took a look at it, they liked what they saw, but then they started doing a lot more custom stuff with their builds, and they wanted to be able to, in some ways, move a little bit more towards Grunt and a little bit more away from some of the opinions that we had, which is totally cool. How are we going to be solving that moving forward? Like
Okay,
making
exactly.
it easier?
as I said, with a static grunt file, which we're calling it, which just means that we are generating the grunt file once and putting all the dependencies in package.json, which means it says grunt 0.4 there, and you can upgrade whenever you want. So you're not tied to a specific grunt file that we select for you, and you can keep your project's dependencies static if you want that. And what that means is that it's extremely easy to make changes and do whatever you want. Like if you want a backend integration, you can do it yourself. We are mainly opinionated about front-end apps at the moment. We might explore something else in the future, but at the moment with this new release, you can do it yourself. So why not?
That's really
more
cool.
control.
More control, exactly, and that's what users have been asking for.
Yeah.
So they get it.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want.
Do it yourself.
Good idea.
And when can people expect to see the next version of Yeoman?
Okay, so we are then doing a pre-release that is going to be feature complete in the middle of December.
Cool.
And we are shooting for a final release in the middle of January. So yeah,
awesome.
That is going to be great. We also have some cool stuff in the roadmap that we're targeting for February, and like we want to integrate with the editors like Sublime and Web Brackets to make it easier for you.
So people aren't going to have to keep switching back and forth between lots of different tools.
Like we currently have a build system for Sublime, which is really naive. You can trigger a build and save and stuff like that, but we want to get a little more integration and with different editors. So that is going to be really nice. It's also going to make it easier for people that aren't really that comfortable with the command line, which yeah. And we are also trying to make it easier. We are also thinking about, currently it's very hard to debug on mobile when you're creating mobile apps.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that with Yeoman already, and we want to make it easier to debug on mobile by integrating with some debugging solutions like with Android. So we are going to explore that too in the future. Yeah. Yes, and also we are currently with the generator, when you do Yeoman init, we fetch some dependencies that we need, like HTML5 boilerplate and other stuff. But currently we fetch them from Git directly. What we are going to change in the future is to start fetching everything from Bower, which is the package manager we currently use. And what that means, it's going to be super easy to keep those dependencies up to date, because they're already in the registry, and you can just run Yeoman update to update them. So this is going to be really nice.
A lot of exciting changes around the corner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Lots of fun stuff to look forward to.
Okay, so if you Paul published the roadmap, you can go to Yeoman wiki, and look at it. And we love some comments and feedback about the possible future.
Right.
What do you think about that? So yeah.
So
awesome.
I think it's good where, a lot of the static grunt file stuff that Sindre mentioned gives us, you're able to much more declaratively specify your configuration and how you want these operations to have instead of it being kind of in Yeoman somewhere.
Yes.
And then it also allows for better flexibility and extensibility when you say that, I know Yeoman you do it this way, but I got to make this change.
Yeah.
You can swap out one thing for
I want
another.
to use less instead.
Yeah.
A common one.
Sure.
And it's also going to make it easier for us to create customized builds. Like, you don't really want to build the same if you're creating a Chrome extension, like instead of a web app or a jQuery plugin.
Yeah.
So that is going to be more customized. Yeah.
Yep. So we're excited. We have some ideas on this, but really just we want to help everyone build web applications in a more productive way. And so if you have any ideas on how we can help with that,
please feel free to leave a comment.
Yes. Okay, is this it for...
Do you want to answer any more questions, or are you...
Yeah.
One more question?
One more question. Let's do one more. You like any of those? If not...
Can you answer any of them?
If not...
Yeah. You want to pick one? Okay, so Sergey asks... This is actually
Sergey again?
Sergey gets
He's good. He's got some good questions.
He gets two questions answered.
Last
Yeah.
time, yeah.
He's
so
great.
Sergey asks about when you're developing a Rails app.
Uh-huh.
Should you use Yeoman or stick with the Rails asset pipeline?
Ooh, yeah.
Asset pipeline. Well, okay.
Yes.
There's a lot of tooling in the Rails ecosystem already.
Yeah, tons.
Yeah.
And Yeoman is solving a problem of there's not much tooling in the client side
Right.
in JavaScript space.
Right.
And so I'd say that on the Rails side, it's pretty mature over there already. And in Yeoman, we also are improving on our story for how Yeoman can integrate with Rails and help have Rails preview the power the preview server, but you still have the library compilation functionality still going.
Yeah.
And so as we're doing that, that's still ongoing. And we'll have something to look at soon. But in the meantime, I think Rails as a pipeline would be
Yep, I think I'd agree.
Yeah.
cool.
All right.
I think that'll be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And please join us next time on the Breakpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us this time.
Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.